Welcome back to Hitchcock at Home. Today we're going to use just a few simple ingredients and make a really delicious chicken noodle soup. It is actually using pre-made pork gyoza. Now, of course, just like any good chicken noodle soup, we are starting with our normal mirepoix. We have some of my favorite homemade chicken stock, as well as we're cheating with the noodles and we are using some pork gyoza. So now this is nothing fancy. It literally just comes from Trader Joe's. I have about 2/3 of a bag. And to top it off, since we've got some Asian inspired flair with the gyoza, I just have some of my homegrown green onion. I have absolutely no idea how this is still growing and looks as green and fresh as it is, even with all the snow. The green onion is a complete mystery to me. I don't know how it's still growing. Now, of course, the first thing we want to do is get all of the veggies prepped. Mise en place is, the fancy word for what that's called, but just having everything prepared before you actually start cooking is going to be the #1 tip of how you can make everything go a lot more smoothly. So now, a fun tip for making soup. When it comes to celery, I like to use some of the leafy bits because you're probably not going to eat this when you're just doing like veggies and dip. Save the, the more solid ones for your veggies and dip and use some of the leafy ones in your soup. So I enjoy chopping my celery on diagonals. It just kind of makes it a little bit more fun when you're eating just because it looks pretty. So now next I want to show you how to properly cut an onion. We're only going to use about half for this recipe today though. So we are going to start by cutting pole to pole. And now we want to take some of this papery skin off. So cut off the north pole, and now we should just be able to peel off 1 or 2 layers. Alright. There we go. And then just separate. Now this leaves us with half of an onion, and you see we still have the root intact. So we're going to cut this direction, but not all the way to the root. We're going to cut this direction, and then we are going to chop this way, and it's going to give us a really easy way to cut the onion just a bit faster. Now careful. How it's kind of all in pieces now, but still attached. We've got pieces, very rough chop, but it was very, very quick. So now moving on, I love using baby carrots to kind of cheat with some of the prep for the carrots. They're already peeled, they're washed. All we have to do really is cut them up. I'm using about half a bag, so maybe about 6 or 8 ounces. And if you want it to look extra fancy, you can cut it in triangles. Let me show you. So you're going to cut, rotate, cut, rotate, cut, rotate, and cut again. Of course, how you cut your carrots is completely up to you. So this is such a simple recipe. I just kind of find it fun to make the shapes of the veggies just a little bit fancy. So today I'm going to use just about 3 cloves. Now mind you, these are 3 pretty big cloves. So for you, you might want to use 4 or 5 if your cloves are a bit smaller. So what we're going to do, because this still has a papery skin on it, we need to cut this off and then we're going to peel the skin off. And then use my handy dandy garlic press and make it nice tiny little pieces. So now I'm just cutting the garlic in half before I put it through the garlic press, just because of how thick this garlic is. I want all of the garlic to be able to get pressed into really nice, uniform, small pieces. And of course, last but not least, we are going to get our green onions chopped. We're not going to cook this, it's going to be the garnish on top at the end. As you can see, there's really nothing fancy we did with this, just kind of small pieces so you can get a nice sprinkle right on top of the dish. We are all chopped and prepped. Let's go and start cooking. So now when I'm prepping, I like to use dishes because it helps make everything really easy. So if I have 3 or 4 items that are going into the pot all at the same time, it's really nice if I can just have them ready to go and go. Whoosh. So now a really good start to just about any soup is getting the veggies in the pan, add just a little bit of salt, and then pop the lid on and give them a few moments to sweat. It's going to help soften the veggies, really just so you can get it all started quickly. We've had our veggies in with the lid on for about 3 minutes now. You can really see how the condensation is starting to kind of escape out of the vegetables. We're going to give this a stir because we don't want anything on the bottom to burn. We want it all to heat really evenly. And you can really see how much liquid has already come out. And that's, I think, a lot just because we added a little salt. Salt helped draw the liquid out of a lot of food. And let's go and pop the lid back on for just a few more minutes. There we go. So now homemade chicken stock is one of my favorite pantry must-have. I always try to keep at least 2 or 3 of these in the freezer. They make a lot of the homemade soups really quick. I use it for ramen all the time. I can link that recipe and the recipe for how I make my stock. Check the comments below to see this. So now we've had our veggies in here now for about 6 minutes total. So they're going to be mostly softened up, but not fully, but they will continue to cook with our stock. I'll be honest, I'm kind of lazy. I did not thaw the stock yet, so this will slow the cooking just a little bit. But if you don't mind doing an extra dish, please, by all means, feel free to heat up the stock before you get this started. Now this is, as you can see, our garlic. Again, I'm using about 3 cloves. It's 3 pretty big cloves that I had, so you might be using 5 or 6 if yours are smaller. Just going to add that in. And now ideally you would be adding this right before we add the broth in. I had a momentary lapse of the recipe. So we're going to get that in. The garlic, though, is just going to add kind of some really nice flavor, and I definitely know you will miss it if you don't add it. Basically, the pork gyoza is still kind of frozen, so we're adding it to a pretty warm broth. We put the lid back on so that way the gyoza can cook through and everything can come up to temperature a little bit more quickly. So now, something else to note. This is pork gyoza with chicken stock. That does not bother me. If it bothers you, you might want to look for some chicken gyoza, chicken dumplings. You should be able to find those in your supermarket too. Also, it should only take about 5 or 6 minutes for the dumplings to cook through, and then we'll be ready to plate and serve. Our gyoza has been in the soup for about 5 minutes now. One of the beauties of soup is there's a lot of it, once you get it in the pot, you just kind of wait and let it do its thing. This is stir, get a little bit of everything. So you can see why I kind of call this a cheater's chicken soup. So we've got all the veggies, we've got all the chicken broth, And to kind of save, we don't need to have any leftover chicken. We don't need to make any chicken because we're just cheating and using the gyoza. It's got a little bit of that meaty filling in it, and you have the nice noodle on the outside. So this is going to really hit you a lot like chicken noodle soup, but you didn't have to take the time to do all of that. So now we have our soup. We get a little bit of everything here on my spoon. And I did add the green onions. This is like super good. And one of my favorite things about this recipe is start to finish, we're on about 35 minutes right now, and that's including all the time I've taken to film. Let's have some more. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. There should be some more videos right up here for you to watch. And take a moment, let me know what you think in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button. You know you want to.